So living organisms vary in their complexity. Things like a deer, person, very complex, and lots of different parts and different levels of organization. There are some living things that are much simpler, things like a jellyfish, a sponge, a protist, an amoeba, a bacteria. And so all living organisms have, at minimum, this first level of organization. All living things we know from studying cell theory are made of cells. So whether it's an amoeba, it's a single cell, or a bacteria, or a dog, they all have that basic level of organization. They're all made of cells. Okay? Cells are the basic unit of life, we know. As we'll use a human example. Humans have many, many cells, trillions of cells. Are they all identical? No. They're not all identical. They pretty much all have the same DNA, but their structure is different. A nerve cell looks quite different from a skin cell, which looks quite different from a muscle cell. They even have different parts. They accomplish different tasks. There are many types of cells. For example, a muscle cell is one type of cell within a human. So the simplest living organisms don't have any of these other levels of organization. They're just made of cells. But more complex animals have groups of cells that sort of work together to accomplish one function. And we call that a tissue. So like a group of muscle cells that are working together to do some certain job form a type of muscle tissue. You guys studied this probably in health. What are the types of muscle tissue? There's three types. Okay. Smooth, cardiac, skeletal, yes. So those are types of muscle tissue. Okay, and those types of muscle tissue have a job to do. There are a bunch of muscle cells working together to do a certain function, which is basically contract and relax. That's what muscle tissue does. Grace?
Does this, like the tissues and the organs, does it, when you have this kind of scenario, I know it's called that, but like for anything, like
Do all living things have this? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like,
No. Complex and all.
Or is this like just for one scenario?
Yeah, this is just for the more complex animals have all of these levels of classification. Some don't have organ system, but they have organs, tissues, and cells. Some living things have tissues and cells, but not actual organs. Some things don't even have tissue, they're just grouped of just a single cell. So yeah, depends on the type of living thing you're referring to. So I'm using sort of humans as an example. Humans, more complex animals, have all of these levels of organization. So a group of tissues work together, and they form what we call an organ. An organ is a bunch of different tissues working together to do some job. For example, your heart. Your heart is made of muscle tissue, but also nervous tissue, blood. And so a bunch of tissues working together, they form organs. We can name lots of organs: liver, brain, lungs. Okay, all of those things are made of many types of tissue working together to accomplish some function. Going up another level in complexity, we then can have organs working together to form a system, an organ system. You might have called it a human body system when you study the human body in health. And so the heart, arteries, veins, blood working together form what system? No? Grace?
Like muscular?
No? Grady?
No, that's circulatory system.
Yeah, we might call it circulatory. You can also call it cardiovascular system. They mean the same thing. So that's an organ system. It's a bunch of organs working together to do a job, which is transport blood throughout your body. The liver, things to all the cells of your body. And then finally, if we combine a bunch of organ systems, we end up with a full living organism. An organism means an entire living thing, such as a human or a wizard. So what you should know is the order of these levels, from simplest to most complex. So the simplest level of organization in the living thing is cells. When these cells work together, they form tissues. Tissues work together, form organs. Organs work together, form organ systems. Yes. So you can't have a more complex level of organization without the one before, because they all depend on the one. Now, when you guys looked at your cheek cells or the allodia or onion cells under the microscope, they look different from what we draw in our notes and, the illustrations you could look up online, because it's not as clear as we like to think it would be. That these organelles are pretty complex, and they're not nice and neat. They're not each a different color and separate from each other. And so we often simplify things when we make our drawings of cells and just anatomy in general. So I'm going to show you a few these are electron microscope images of some of the organelles. And this is going to help us to review their function as well for your quiz tomorrow. So, what organelle do you think that is? This is probably one of the easier ones to determine. Joey?
Yeah.
No? We think this is the whole organelle. Brian? Yeah, that's the mitochondria. It's a bean shape. It's got all these folds of membranes inside of it. Remind me of its function? Dean?
It's the powerhouse of the cell and it creates energy.
Yeah, it releases energy. We really shouldn't say this makes energy or creates energy. We really should say releases energy, but that's fine for us. The sizes are not that important, but just to give you a rough idea about how big some of these organelles are. Now this one's a little tough because this is showing single structures before they've been doubled. Usually each one would be made of two of these when we drew them in our notes. This is a very important structure. It's found within the nucleus. Know what it is, Carter?
Nucleus?
No? Aiden? Those are chromosomes. What are they made out of? DNA. What do they carry?
Genes.
Our genes, our genetic information. Again, they are what get passed on from parents to their offspring. Now this shows 5 microns.
Will we have to estimate the size?
No.
What does that line do before the 5?
The line what?
Before the 5 out of micrometers? Up there, the estimated size.
Oh, that means like about. That little tilde sign or whatever you want to call it. It means like about 5. All right, so this entire thing is the nucleus. We're going to label the actual parts. So number 1, what is number 1, this arrow indicating for number 1? Katie? Well, yeah, that's the nucleolus. What is the function of the nucleolus? What's its job? Mom? Yeah, makes the ribosomes. What is number 2 indicating? Right? That's the nuclear membrane, yes. What does the nuclear membrane do? Dean?
It lets things pass in and out of the nucleus?
Yeah, it controls things moving into and out of the nucleus. Some things are stuck in the nucleus. Things like the DNA, the chromosomes, they can't get out. Other things can get in and out. Things like ribosomes, things like messenger RNA. About this one, it's the arrow indicating. Joey?
Cell wall.
Yeah, how did you know it was a cell wall? First, you must have inferred that what type of cell is it? Yeah, what told you that, Joey? What would give you the clue that this is a plant cell? Jake? The shape. It's kind of squarish, rectangular. What else? Yeah, another cell next to it. It's thick, right? You could see that there's some width here. So those are the main things. So yeah, this is the cell wall. What is its function? Grady?
Kind of like protects
Yeah.
cells.
Protect their structure, support for the plant cell. Is it alive? No, it's just sort of a shell. Made of what? The cell wall is made of cell ulose, cellulose. Okay, what now? It's really not. You can't really see it distinct from the inside of the cell wall. But what would be the living structure that's just located inside of the cell wall? Right? Cell membrane. What is its function? Yeah, it's what's in control of things moving into and out of the cell. What? Oh, that's okay. You can just write it down, right? Just put it in your brain. Now this one is a little hard to tell because we don't have a wider view of this, where you can see where this is in location to the rest of the cell, because you might confuse this with another organelle. What would you say that is, Carter?
That would be ER.
Yes, that's the ER, endoplasmic reticulum.
With the pointers, I think the pointers are pointing at ribosomes.
Yeah, well, the pointers are sort of showing you the width of how big this is. What's the function of the ER? Aiden?
Transport protein.
Let's just add one word to that to make it a little bit more specific. Where does it transport protein? Within the cell. One last organelle. Taylor, would you hand up what organelle is this?
The Golgi body?
Yes, it's the Golgi bodies. How do we know? How do we recognize Golgi bodies, Imam?
They look like pancakes and syrup.
Not just syrup,
Maple syrup.
not just maple syrup,
100%.
100% pure, amber, New York State, maple syrup from sugar maple trees raised in New Hartford, New York. Function of the Golgi bodies? Package up things that are going to be leaving the cell. Let's ask you. Where are these little bubbles headed? After a protein goes into the Golgi bodies, it gets put into a little bubble like this, where does that go? Goes to the cell membrane, merges with it, and sort of bursts open, releasing the contents out of the cell. That's how the Golgi bodies operate. That's how it works. All right. I don't know if you could, I guess, write down the steps. We went over this yesterday when we were making our wet mounts and the day before. So to make a wet mount of a specimen, pretty simply, you put a drop of either water or if you're using a stain on a slide. You add your specimen there, which you're going to be studying. And then what? Yeah, the other thing. Can we be more specific? Can we give the other thing an actual name? Emma?
Put the top piece of glass on.
That is not any more specific. That is not a name. That is a description. We put the
Cover.
not your phone, Brian.
The cover.
Dean.
Cover slide.
That's not it also.
What do we put?
Is it really that
Glass.
Thank you. The cover slip.
Oh.
Slip. Cover slip. Screen protector. Really, screen protector. All right. Any questions about any of this?